is damp. My spoon is too big.
Oh,
Have you ever noticed in my basement how those stairs definitely aren't right?
No, they're not at all. Those are not the original stairs.
Well, yeah, clearly they're not the originals.
And when they were rebuilt wrong. And I really want you to pay someone to redo them.
That's a lot of money.
I know, but I also don't like the fact that I can see through them.
Oh, now seeing through them is not the issue that I have.
When you stand on the top step and you can see the nails that are holding it into the wall.
I mean, my major issue right now is that I'm looking and I can see it's like scabbed to that joist.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like those stairs.
I don't know that that's okay. How did this pass any kind of inspection before I bought it?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Okay, are we ready to start?
Yeah.
We are.
Why did we just try to host a creepy podcast in your creepy basement?
Why did we decide to?
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah. So, hey everybody. I'm here with Jeremy Cloyd in his creepy basement.
I don't like when you use my first and last name. There was something about that was really upsetting. But we are in my basement. We decided this week we were going to move locations. We recorded last week in my office, in my house. So like what I was wanting to be the pod loft.
I hate it even more when you say pod loft. Like last week you were calling it the podcast loft, which I could kind of whatever. But pod loft is just...
But you've listened to My Favorite Murder. You know where I'm getting that. When they started recording in Georgia's pod loft. Like it was a little loft in her apartment or house or something.
Yeah, but yours wasn't a loft. It's just a bedroom you turned into an office.
Why you gotta cheapen it?
Whatever. So now we're in your basement.
Now we're in the basement, and Doug has gone to great lengths to make this a creepy corner.
Great lengths.
Creepy corner.
Oh, that is good.
I like creepy corner.
Creepy corner. I rehung the string lights that you had hung.
Yeah, I just kind of threw them up there.
And I used the cast-offs of set pieces that your theater was getting rid of.
I mean, you know, a couple chairs and a table and an old on-air sign.
Yeah.
No big deal, right?
Yeah, you can check out pictures of our new creepy corner on Instagram.
I'm really upset right now that I don't have anything as funny as the Subway bread debacle from last week to talk about before we get started.
Yeah.
Nothing else that was so purely dumb happened, I don't think.
Yeah, it's kind of a terrible time to try to have funny stories about
What's happening in the news?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything funny left for that.
Yeah, we're just existing at this point.
But it's fall.
It is fall. It is very fallish outside, except for the fact that it's like 80 degrees.
It's 80 degrees, but if you look
There's leaves falling.
Yeah, the leaves are really nice.
Yeah. The trees are like on fire, basically, but not in a scary...
Not in a like the whole West Coast burning.
Yeah, I was going to say, not in a scary forest fire kind of way. Just
yeah, that was really bad. That was a bad comment, Doug.
Can we get that out?
No, I'm leaving it in now because we had a whole conversation about it. Okay, so this week we decided to shift gears a little bit from last week. Mm-hmm. Last week we talked about academic buildings and different hauntings that happened in some academic buildings across the country. And this week we're going to shift into Doug's domain.
Yeah, we're going to talk about dorms and residence halls. And yes, I used the D word.
The D word?
Yes.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, especially like my students and my friends that are listening, in Doug's line of work, in student affairs, they do not say the word dorm anymore.
Okay, so there's a lot of debate around this, actually. So there's this feeling, there's actually an acronym that dorm stands for dull, ordinary room to myself. Or
that sounds great.
Or dirty old room of mine.
That sounds accurate.
And the general consensus is a dorm is a place you stay. A residence hall is a place you live.
I can hear the collective sigh of every student that I have
exactly
right now.
Because you never say, I'm going to run back to my residence hall and grab a book.
No, I'm running back to my dorm to grab a book.
Yes. I'm of the sort of persuasion that it doesn't matter. I have better things I can put my energy towards. I don't care what you call it, just as long as you act right when you're in it.
Well, we'll find out if people act right. I don't know how they are in your story. The people in mine are usually fine, but other things not so much.
Okay.
Okay, so you're ready to hear what I have to say this week?
Yes.
No, you're not. The look on your face says no. Okay, so actually I took a little bit of a deviation from what I really normally do, which is liberal arts schools, small schools, because that's what I know more about.
What?
So this week, my story takes place at Penn State University.
Ooh, that's like a whole nother world for you.
Yeah,
It's the North. It's not liberal arts. What's going on?
yeah. So we're gonna go to Pennsylvania State University, Penn State, PSU. They're all like different names for the same school. It's a state-related land grant research institution, to pull in some of your stuff from last week, with campuses and facilities throughout Pennsylvania. But the story that we are going to talk about today takes place on the main campus located in University Park, Pennsylvania. So, to get the idea of today's story, I think something that we've got to really understand is the question of what are the different types of hauntings, right? So what I'm trying to say, I guess, here is what are different like classifications for hauntings? Because there are tons of different classifications. So last week we talked about weird feelings, some sounds, some experiences, but nothing too aggressive.
Right.
Especially in my story, nothing really aggressive happened. So what happens when those events start to become more aggressive and more violent?
Oh.
Yeah. So we are actually going to talk about the word poltergeist.
Ooh, spooky.
Very spooky, very weird almost.
Daddy, they're here.
I hate that. I hate what you just did.
But that's when you said poltergeist, that's exactly where my mind went to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We think of the movie. So, and that is exactly the type of ghost, the type of haunting that we're talking about. So in ghost lore, poltergeist is German for like a noisy ghost or a noisy spirit.
Yeah.
And that's a huge point to this thing because it's the classification that we give to a ghost that has physical disturbances like loud noises, objects being moved or destroyed, and they are purportedly capable of pinching, biting, hitting, and tripping.
Yeah, they're like the most violent ghost.
Yeah, I mean, we think about Harry Potter, right?
Yeah,
Peeves, absolutely the most annoying ghost that exists in Hogwarts.
But even Peeves was like a friendly version of what a poltergeist, I think, typically is.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that Peeves had some redeeming qualities that we learned about throughout the stories.
Well, of course, he attacked Umbridge, so.
Can he come to the real world? So most accounts of poltergeist describe the movement or levitation of objects such as furniture, cutlery, noises such as knocking on doors, cabinets shutting, closets like slamming shut or opening seemingly on their own. So, and of course, I'm the one that hit the table because I can't talk without moving my hands.
He's physically impossible.
It's a struggle, guys. Okay, so that's the type of haunting that we actually are finding on the campus of Penn State in Runkle Hall.
That's a great name.
I also can't say it very well. Runkle.
Like Scooby-Doo saying the word uncle.
That's what it feels like.
Runkle.
Okay, stop diminishing my story. It is weird. It is creepy.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, built between 1957 and 59, which I feel like is a long time to build a building in today's standards.
Yeah, 2 years.
But it took about 2 years for this to be a fully constructed building.
How big is it?
I don't really remember. I don't think I saw like an actual indication of how big, but I know it has at least 4 floors.
Okay.
But okay. So it was originally used as a men's residence hall. It was named for Irwin W. Runkle.
Okay.
He was the head librarian from 1904 to 1924, and then was named the first head of the Department of Philosophy at Penn State. So 42 years of service to Penn State, big deal. That's why they did this. But this is like one of those L-shaped halls.
Okay.
Okay, like some of them you've worked in. And this is going to make sense to why I care. So even though this is an older hall, obviously, we don't see any reports of anything in this building until the 90s.
Oh.
So it kind of sits there for a while. So a little bit different than, like, especially your story from last week where everything was kind of all over the place. This one doesn't start to develop a haunting.
Okay.
Do you catch a haunting? Is it a virus?
Let's not talk about viruses right now.
Accurate. Okay. So until the 90s is when we start to see things happening. So most of the hauntings for this building began with a focus around room 318. And then you hit the stand. Okay. So in 1992, the RA for this hall was living in room 318.
It's always the RA room.
It's always the RA room. And was kept up one night by loud banging. So this alone isn't anything super out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah. Because I'm avoiding a joke right now.
Oh, please avoid that joke. What I was going to say was that when I was an RA, my residents knew the quickest way to piss me off
always
was to bang on walls, on doors, on windows, and
bounce a
God
basketball.
forbid. No, we aren't talking about balls in the hallway because I had a strict rule about balls in the hallway. Yes. And they always laughed about it, but they never forgot it.
Yeah.
But my thing was rather that it was always for me a lockout.
Oh, yeah.
People were always, because my room was really close to the front door, and they were always just banging on the door. And I remember one night it was at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I just walked out there and said, no, you can call public safety. Because I was so mad. It was the same resident who refused to go get a new key.
See, I'm glad that's why at my school we had 24-hour desks, so the RAs didn't have to worry about that.
Oh, no. I shouldn't have had to worry about this. This was after desk hours, so
yeah,
this should have been just, you're out of luck, buddy. You need to call public safety.
Call a friend. Get them to let you in.
Do anything but bang on the door until someone wakes up and lets you in. But anyway, so this RA, right? This RA is hearing loud knocking, which at first, you're just assuming it's loud knocking, annoying, and you ignore it for a while. And that's exactly what she does. But, sorry, I just read a note I made in here about losing my mind. But the banging, however, didn't have a clear source of origin. So even when I was an RA, I could tell where the banging was coming from.
Right.
If it was upstairs, if it was down the hall, if it was on the front door, if it was, God forbid, on my window.
Oh, yeah, you can tell where it's coming from.
You know where it's coming from. This person had no idea.
Okay.
This RA could not tell where the banging was coming from. Then things started to get a little weirder. The RA's bed started breathing.
How does a bed breathe?
Okay, so the way it's described, and this is in multiple articles, this bed apparently was heaving, like up and down, like moving.
Like the mattress?
Yes, yeah, the mattress, as if it were a pair of lungs breathing.
Ooh.
Exactly, right? That's unsettling. But even this doesn't make this RA leave this room.
Like at that point, am I like hallucinating or something? Like,
yeah, at that point, am I having a bad trip? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Which I would hope is not the case because you're probably on call. But in this situation, she still doesn't leave. She doesn't leave until the next thing happens. When things in her room start moving on their own.
Oh, no.
Objects start moving, and even objects just disappearing. She would turn around and they wouldn't be there anymore. Books on her desk, things on her like shelves, they would just be gone.
Girl, get out.
So finally she does run from the room and leave.
Yeah.
Right? And that was the only real case that we had, was this one instance in room 318.
And everyone probably just thought she was crazy.
Probably. Until about 6 years later.
No.
When another RA is living in that room, because of course it's the RA room.
Yeah.
So in 1998, a student experienced really, really similar disturbances. Things started to disappear. The mattress was breathing again, banging, but no discernible location. Then this girl hears mumbling in the walls. But she can't identify the language. It's like a language. It's like a foreign language that she can't understand. and it's just mumbling in the walls.
Mm-mm.
I'm not here for that.
Mm-mm. I'm gone.
Okay. So, what's really interesting. Okay, no, we'll get to that. So, another student actually claimed that the haunting may have moved down the hall more recently into room 313 because the residents in that room are reporting that their TV will spontaneously turn on, and it will always turn on to a Spanish channel. But they don't speak Spanish. And they're like, we don't go to that channel. We don't know what that's about. We've literally never turned the TV to that channel. So it's not like someone's accidentally hitting the
go back button.
The go back button, which do TVs even have that anymore?
Does anyone watch TV and not like just Netflix
streaming?
And streaming?
I don't know, but these kids are experiencing a situation where things are turning on their own, which you and I both know I'm not here for.
Right. Like,
I would be done.
Yeah.
Real quick. So there are a few instances of like supposed deaths in other halls that might have led to this, like old situations from other halls, and they were like superimposing them on this hall, on Runkle Hall, but it turns out there's never been a reported death in that building.
Right.
So there's no physical like spirit that we could tie to this.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing we could make sense for that. So while that's a case, while that's something that people are arguing about, people are also arguing about the label of poltergeist. Okay, so poltergeists in most cases are attached to people.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we're seeing it attached to a building, right?
Right.
That's not normal poltergeist activity, apparently. What I think's interesting here is to consider that this particular haunting could be a poltergeist based on this other understanding. Poltergeists are triggered by the uncertainty of a transition in someone's life, so they're usually triggered by teenagers.
Okay.
People moving from childhood to young adulthood to becoming a teenager during puberty with all the hormones.
Fun.
But what better place to be around that
than out of college?
Like, that is insane to think about, like in a residence hall, in a dormitory, that these people are like all confined to this place. That could be a breeding ground for that type of activity.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you believe in a poltergeist, that could be a big part of that. I mean, I don't know why you guys are listening if you don't at least somewhat question if this stuff could be real, right? So, nobody knows if it's a poltergeist or a haunting, but you still have reports from. But also, the interesting thing here is it's only the third floor.
Weird.
Like, Runkle Hall only deals with the third floor. Now, there have been, I read some like random articles that I didn't include because they're one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said that they saw some older Latino woman down at the end of one of the halls in a rocking chair.
Okay, so real quick though, I'm noticing a pattern. So there was mumbling in the walls in a foreign language.
Right.
A TV switching to
Spanish.
And then a Latina woman at the end of the hallway.
Which I don't have any definitive things on. Like this story, the stories that I listed on the third floor, I know for sure we have sources for those.
Right.
But this other one I don't know, but it is interesting that it is a Latino woman.
Yeah. 3 makes a pattern.
So I don't know if that's part of it. Now, some people say that there's hauntings in one of the study rooms, but there was no like real definitive reports of what that was. They were just like, oh, things are weird in here.
Yeah.
Which to me doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But some people said that there were 11 spirits supposedly in that building because they had played with a Ouija board.
Yay, Ouija boards.
I'm just saying, do not bring a Ouija board to your residence hall.
The campus I work at has one. There was one in a residence hall, like in programming supplies that the hall keeps.
Why?
I don't know. It is currently in the storage room in the central housing office because the hall director, one of the hall directors in that building, wasn't comfortable with it, which is totally understandable.
Oh, but you can't like burn it or anything.
Yeah, so
you're really not supposed to do that.
It just sits in what we call Narnia.
I know where Narnia is.
Yeah, you've been to Narnia.
So yeah, that's my whole thing right now is just this question mark of a poltergeist on Penn State's campus, but it's in a residence hall, and we're still getting reports of it.
That's insane.
But I want you to look at something real quick, which I'll put these pictures up on our Instagram. But this is, let me present this. This is actually Runkle Hall right after it was built. Okay. So like a standard L-shaped.
It is a super plain L-shaped building.
Four-story building.
It is definitely like
of
utilitarian
50s. Yes.
50s.
Very
basic.
50s residence hall.
Yep.
I mean,
that was that GI Bill money.
Absolutely. So here is a map of the third floor. I found these blueprints on Penn State's website.
Okay.
Because
that's
their
like
library.
The original blueprints.
Yes. And they had them in the digital commons.
Okay, so where's 318?
So 318
is it in the corner?
Is right. Oh my gosh, I lost it. I had it in my head. I had it mapped out. It's over. Yeah, it's all the way in the corner by the stairwell.
Yeah, usually you put the RA room in
and
the
you
middle.
and you can tell it looks like it might be a little bit smaller.
Yeah,
but it's right here, right by the stairwell, so that obviously they could go down either side of the hallway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think this is really interesting to look at where it sits.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then, but to say that the other haunting that could have happened is down in 313. So 313 is all the way down here in the middle of that one wing.
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the hallway. It's easier to like explain away mysterious noises. Like, oh, you're across from the stairwell.
Maybe that's where you're hearing the banging.
Yeah, or you're right on an outside wall. Maybe you're hearing it from outside. Like, it's easier to explain that stuff away.
But also, how do you explain stuff just like moving?
Yeah, you can't.
I don't have an explanation for that one.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not even gonna try.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you all believe in the idea of a poltergeist?
I wonder, is that still the RA room?
I don't know.
Because like, would it be hard to like, you know, if you had multiple reports of like RAs experiencing that, like, I wouldn't want to be an RA there. I wouldn't want to get put in that room.
Maybe they just explain it away. I mean, think about it. There's all kinds of stuff on mine and your campuses that we know from going to undergrad there.
Yeah, that's true.
And no one really worries about it. They just explain it away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird stuff. I'm closing my laptop and putting it on the ground.
Okay.
So tell me about your story this week. I've talked for this entire time. I don't even know how long I've been talking.
Not that long. Okay. So it's really weird that you picked a large public land grant research institution, because so did I. So we're going to go a little farther north than you did. So we're going to talk about Michigan State University.
Ooh.
Go Spartans.
Yeah. All I think is like Tyler Oakley.
Yeah. So Michigan State is located in East Lansing, Michigan, on the banks of the Red Cedar River. It was founded in 1855 as the Agricultural College of the state of Michigan. It's consistently ranked in the top 10 largest universities in America, with around 49,000 students from fall in 2019, and 635,000 living alumni worldwide. It's a big school.
That's too many people.
It's a lot of people.
That's too many people for me to like deal with it knowing exist.
Yeah. It's considered a public Ivy institution.
Why do I feel like they just made that up?
No, it's like a recognized thing.
Public Ivy?
Yeah, so it's an Ivy League level experience at a public institution.
Blech.
Oh.
I have feelings about colleges that are like, we're so good. We're Ivy League.
Anyway. So it's home to the country's largest residence hall system, due to a scheme after World War II. So the president at the time wanted to expand the university, and he saw a way to do that using the money from veterans coming back from World War II using the GI Bill. So the limitation at that point in time was residence hall space. They didn't have enough place for these students to live. So they would build a residence hall, fill it with GIs, and with that extra income, build another one, and then another one.
Oh, so really the GI Bill.
Yeah. So that's how they rapidly expanded. But the campus is absolutely massive. It covers 5,300 acres in 563 buildings. over 26 miles of roads and over 100 miles of sidewalks on just like the main campus.
I feel like that's.
It's
I know for sure that's bigger than Columbia.
Yeah, it's bigger than like the town your institution's in. It's
You acted like no one that listens to this knows where.
I know. But it's not even like a small city. It's a city.
Yeah, like it's a whole city
unto itself. It's divided into two main sections, North and South Campus, which are separated by the Red Cedar River. It actually runs through campus. North Campus is home to the historic portion of the school. It's dominated by Gothic buildings and wooded paths, and it's also the home of the building we're going to talk about, Mayo Hall.
Like mayonnaise?
Mayo Hall.
Like mayonnaise hall.
No, it's not Mayonnaise Hall. It is Mayo, like short for mayonnaise. But the namesake of Mayo Hall, Mary Mayo, was an advocate for women's education. She became very active on the Agricultural Colleges Committee. She gave speeches and lectures, advocated for women's courses in a women's dormitory, with the belief that the college's current curriculum offered almost nothing to women.
Okay, I apologize for making fun of Mayo's name.
You're welcome. Or you should be. In 1896, a women's course was finally created and a building was constructed, referred to as the Women's Building, which, ironically enough, if you remember my story from last week, it became Morrell Hall.
This building did?
Yeah. Not
the same namesake?
Yes, same namesake. A lot of institutions have a Morrell Hall for that very reason.
Really?
Yep. But so the Women's Building, which became Morrell Hall, was supposed to be named after Mary, but a hall in her name didn't appear until almost 28 years after she died.
Naturally.
Yep. So she fell sick and passed away in 1903. But Sylvan Hall, which was originally built in 1931, was renamed Mayo Hall. So it's now the oldest residence hall on MSU's campus. It's an idyllic example of collegiate Gothic architecture with brick and limestone construction, large bay windows, elaborate woodwork throughout the ground floor. It was recently renovated in 2009 to actually make it more historically accurate.
I just was laughing at recently renovated in 2009.
It doesn't feel like that long ago.
So over a decade ago.
But it was actually renovated to make it more historically accurate. So the windows had been replaced with like energy efficient windows back in like probably the 80s. And so they renovated it to make it more accurate.
But I hope they're still energy efficient.
I'm sure they're still energy efficient.
Yeah.
Although she never set foot in the building, having died 28 years before its construction, the spirit of Mary Mayo is rumored to keep watch over her namesake.
She's probably pissed that they didn't name a building after her until long after she died.
I mean, possibly.
They shafted her on the first go-round.
Yep. So almost immediately after opening, reports of shadowy figures moving through the building's formal lobbies and random cold spots in hallways started. Lights turn on and off randomly, electrical devices malfunction, and people report feeling invisible fingers tapping them on the shoulder.
Absolutely not. See, okay, but tapping, that's poltergeist activity.
A portrait of Mary Mayo sits on a mantle over the central fireplace in the lobby, and the eyes of the portrait are said to follow you wherever you walk in the room.
Absolutely not.
It's also common for staff and students to hear the sound of someone playing the building's piano, even when no one is anywhere near the piano. And guess who also played the piano? Mary Mayo.
Of course she did.
But the hauntings aren't limited to the lobby. Students commonly hear thuds, crashes, and what were described as ethereal whispers throughout the building.
This is poltergeist activity.
In a 2012 interview with MSU Today, which is MSU's like student-run kind of news show,
Okay.
then student and resident at Mayo Hall, Brittany Bryan, reported that she randomly woke up around 3 a.m. Surprise! In the morning to the sound of someone or something running in the small space of her dorm room. To her, the sound was immediately unhuman because whatever it was running much faster than someone could pace in the small room. So it was like running back and forth, but it was faster than anything human could possibly run in that small of a space. She bolted up in bed and was shocked to see her roommate sit up at almost exactly the same time. Brittany and her roommate sat still in their beds as they watched the shadowy outline of a man walk through their room and stop at the window before just disappearing.
I would like to request a room change. I'll do the form.
Reason?
Haunting. Creepy.
Yeah.
Ghosties.
Another common story I found online was an account that occurred in the building's basement laundry room. So the way this building was built,
Laundry rooms are always not a good time.
well, yeah, especially a university laundry room. Like,
Well, hey, they're gross.
they're gross because people don't know how to do their laundry. There's just detergent everywhere. So many socks.
So many socks. That was a very audible, like, drink that you just took.
I'm sorry, I was thirsty. So the building has 2 laundry rooms, which are both located in the basement area at the bottom of the 2 main stairwells. So like the building was constructed with 2 stairwells, and there is a little basement area at the bottom of each of them with a laundry room in it. And there's like a little lounge
separate
space.
areas.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 separate areas, but they're connected by this long, dimly lit corridor.
No.
Yeah, kind of like your basement, honestly, like that back part, which I know none of the listeners can see, but
Yeah, well, I can see it, and that was enough for everybody.
yep. So the way the story goes is 2 students were doing laundry one night when one of them decided that they needed to go to the other laundry room because there were no machines open, which is really common. You know,
I was about to say that's normal. At
everyone
least
does
they're
laundry
not,
at the same
you
time.
know, trying to call everybody out for it.
Right. It was actually common for students that were going back and forth between laundry rooms to go up the stairs, walk across the first floor, and then back down the stairs, so they didn't have to walk down this weird, creepy hallway.
Me.
Well, the student didn't want to have to haul her laundry basket back upstairs and then back downstairs. So she decided to just take the long, creepy corridor. So she made it to the other laundry room, and right as she came out of the hallway, there was a TV that usually had like a news channel or something on it. Right as she walked past it, it turned off.
Poltergeist.
She didn't think much of it, assuming it just lost reception, or, you know, some of these older TVs have like a sleep setting that they turn off after so long.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So she began loading her laundry into her washer when suddenly the entire room went dark. The lights just all went out. She spun around to see the hallway lights were off, but the emergency lights were on in the hallway. But that only added to the terror, because those emergency lights allowed her to see the silhouette of the chair that had been holding the door open slide out of the way. She rushed towards the door, reaching it seconds after it had fully closed. She pulled on the door, but found it to be locked. She fumbled around the doorknob, but couldn't find any lock on the door. So she cried for help for several minutes before the lights turned back on, and as soon as she pulled the door open, it opened with ease, and she looked and saw that there was no locking mechanism on the door.
Absolutely not.
Supposedly, the 2 roommates that were doing laundry met back up, got upstairs, and RA told them that that part of campus had lost power, a transformer had gone out. But that does not explain...
That doesn't explain the door.
No. And I at first wondered, is it one of those like fire doors that closes automatically when they lose power? But A, that wouldn't lock. And B, I found multiple reports that said it was like a chair or another object that was propping the door open.
Right. I mean, if it was anything like the laundry room in the building that I was an RA in,
Mm-hmm.
that laundry room had just an old door on it, and you had to put a chair inside the door to keep it open all the time.
Yep.
And it would close, but it did not, again, it didn't have a locking mechanism
Yeah,
either.
I mean, you don't want to put locks on common spaces because you don't want students to lock themselves in.
Or lock someone else out. Like, it turns into a nightmare.
Yeah, so, but yeah, this door didn't have a lock, but was locked.
I ain't here for that.
So the last and most fabled area of Mayo Hall is the infamous Red Room on the 4th floor.
Why?
Why what?
Why is there a red room?
Red Room. Red Room. Red Room.
If you ever quote The Shining to me again.
Officially, the attic space was closed off due to mechanical improvements in the building about 20 years ago. But there are long-standing rumors that the space was a favorite haunt, no pun intended, of early residents in the 1930s who would attempt to contact Miss Mayo herself via Ouija board.
Stop it. Stop it. all of the students listening to this right now, do not use Ouija boards on your college campus. Don't use them at all, but definitely don't use them on your campuses. Sorry, I have strong feelings about that.
I remember the night that, my friend Matt, he made us drive all over town looking for a Ouija board.
Of course he did.
Yep.
He's exactly the kind of person that would try to do that.
Yep. Some stories actually call these early Ouija board experiences full-blown seances or even satanic ritual.
Okay, did this happen in the 80s?
So there are numerous accounts that these rituals occurred in the 1950s and 60s and went so far to include animal sacrifice.
Some part of me doesn't buy that because I'm so ingrained with the idea of the satanic panic thing.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't real. The majority of that was
but this is
totally
before
fake.
satanic panic, really. This was like the 50s and 60s that this supposedly happened, which seems a little early for that.
It is, but I'm also... okay, well,
yep.
Let's assume that maybe they were sacrificing chickens.
Sure. But
if you tell me it was something bigger than a chicken, we're done with this.
No, I don't know exactly what it was. Although the fourth floor is haunted, although the fourth floor is closed off and isolated, students walking by the building at night report seeing a red glow coming from the fourth floor windows, as well as the silhouettes of shadowy figures.
Wait, the fourth floor is completely closed off.
Yeah, fourth floor is
students?
completely closed off. Actually, in that same MSU Today video, a reporter went on a ghost hunt with the Michigan State Paranormal Research Club, and they showed the door, and you have to have like an access code to get into the room, like get into it at all. It's not even really a floor; it's an attic. So
I was
it's
about to say,
rafters
is it
and
just like the
insulation.
very top of the building?
It's just the very top of the building, which, some older buildings back in the day that would have been livable space.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you add air conditioning and ventilation stuff, it's not usable.
And you probably need to use that space to hide things like air conditioning units, furnaces,
fire
things like
systems, things like that. So it's completely locked off, but students still see this red glow coming from the windows occasionally, and these shadowy silhouettes in the window. And it's commonly reported that students walking back to the building late at night just feel eyes watching them as they walk to the building.
Yeah, probably like the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is the story of Mayo Hall.
I'm never going.
So here is a loading screen in my Google Slides.
Well, I love that it's a Google slide mainly because it makes me think of me teaching classes because I use Google Slides.
Anyway, so here's the outside of Mayo Hall as it is today.
Okay, so is the first floor technically that sunken level? Like that
No,
garden level?
Well, it's this it's this ground level. So,
Yeah.
I saw pictures of the inside, and so the first floor has rises and dips. I think it's built probably into a little hillside.
Oh, okay.
But very stereotypical, this is what you would see in a movie as a college residence hall.
Yeah, it's definitely, it makes me think of the Halloween H2O movie.
I've never seen that.
Of course you haven't, but it takes place on a boarding school campus, and their residence hall buildings look like this.
Yeah. So, here is a picture of the back garden of the residence hall back in the day.
And so is that top floor right there with all those windows, is that the fourth floor?
That is actually not. I think that would be the third floor because
it's the attic area with those tiny windows.
It's these little tiny windows up here.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I think the fourth floor only exists in certain parts of the building.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then finally, here is the portrait of Miss Mary Mayo.
I respect you. You did great things for education and great things for women in education. But oh my God, your portrait is terrifying. If to think about that following me throughout the lobby of a building, I'm not here for it.
Yeah. So it's a very blank stare.
Well, yeah, that's what makes those scary. That's what makes those terrifying.
Yeah. It actually, I think I talked last week about my building just looked haunted.
Yeah, that building actually to me looks more haunted than your building last week.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think part of it is you're showing that inside of that garden that you guys can see on Instagram. The inside of the garden if you were walking in there at night,
Oh, it'd be dark. It'd be pitch
it'd
black.
be really dark. Even with lighting of some
Mhm.
kind, it would be dark. And if I saw a red light from one of those little attic windows,
Yeah.
I'd be out.
Yep.
Big out.
So it gives me this like English manor kind of vibe.
Yeah, kind of. It really does. It does look like every college campus scary movie. That's what the residence halls look like.
Yeah.
I can't think of any college campus scary. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Those are all the types I'm thinking of that have that building in it.
Yeah, and there's 2 or 3 more buildings in that same area that are built in that same style.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that is our podcast for the week. Those are our stories. What I'm really hoping is that as these episodes continue, what we're going to have is the ability to read some of your all's stories, some of the things that you guys send in. So if you have a story, if you have an urban legend or something that happened on your campus that you think is kind of creepy, send it in to us. Send it to creepycampuspod@gmail.com.
Creepycampuspodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, I'm so sorry. creepycampuspodcast@gmail.com. And then you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at creepycampuspod. And then you also may have noticed that the few of you that were listening when we first released the first episode last week,
Mm-hmm.
that episode was released initially on Anchor, and then it like slowly has been rolling out to like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts,
We're now pretty
Spotify.
Apple Podcast.
There's some other random ones that I don't even use, and I listen to a lot of podcasts.
We're pretty much, I think, everywhere you can find podcasts now. So
Yeah.
we would love for you to go rate us, subscribe to us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we did
Review
get a
us.
rating.
We got a rating.
We got a rating on Apple,
Yay.
and we got a review.
Cool.
They love us.
Yay. So if you if you like us, great. Rating us and reviewing us helps share us to other people.
Yeah, and especially during spoopy season.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we aren't like super scary, but it's fun to just talk through these things, and no one talks about these things that happen on college campuses.
Yeah. So rate us, review us, share us.
Share us on all of the social medias.
Yeah.
Please. So we will try to get all those pictures up on Instagram and maybe even on Twitter. We can post 4 at a time on Twitter.
Yep.
So we'll get them up there as well. And I will try to get this one edited so it can go out on Wednesday morning instead of Wednesday night like I put it up this week.
Yeah. It's been a busy week for both of us.
I edited a whole section of a play
I
with a
built
green screen.
a mini golf course.
You did build a mini golf course.
Yeah. So we obviously lead interesting lines of work.
So it's been a long week. And I'm glad to say that next week is not going to be quite as long.
Good.
Which will be great because then we can get ready for next week's episode, which I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Don't know yet. Maybe we'll have a preview out on social media by the time this goes live.
I'll make him do that.
Just the theme.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Have a great night and stay spooky.
Or spoopy.
Stay spooky.
Or spoopy.